Hey guys, quick update on what's been going on lately because I think it's been, I don't know, it might be 3 weeks even since I did a proper actual little update. It's been a bit eventful. We've had doctors, hospitals, medicines, all those kind of things that anyone with a child with sensory issue knows are not fun in this. Well, they're probably not fun with any child, but a child with sensory issues really, really not fun. So you had originally it was like a sty within his eyelid, which I've never seen one like it. It was like the size of a pea, but it was like in his eyelid, so it wasn't like pussy or gross or anything. It was just like a bump in his eyelid, and then it came like off the edge of his eyelid, and it was like a scab off the edge of his eye. And I just thought like once it heals, it will just like drop off, and that'll be that. Because the doctor pretty much, or the GP just kind of said, yeah, it'll sort itself out. It didn't. So we went back to the doctor a couple more times. They still didn't really do anything, wouldn't give me any antibiotics or anything. Oh, the dog wants to be in the video, go away. Yeah, so the GP was a bit useless with it. It got to the point where it was growing and it was getting like, it was like a scab, but it was like getting longer and longer, and it was really, really gross. Took him back to the GP who wanted him seen that day. Tried to get him in a Kidderminster hospital. They wouldn't see him because they said it wasn't an emergency, which was just ridiculous. The next morning I had to send him into school and he knocked it off, which, as you can imagine, left like just basically a hole in his eyelid. And I was so glad that it didn't happen when he was with me, because I would have completely freaked out. But the school had kind of cleaned it up as much as they could. I went and picked him up. They said, I'll just take him to minor injuries and hopefully they'll be able to clean it up, but they couldn't. So I took him to minor injuries. They looked at it and they were just like, we can't touch it because it's an eye. So we got sent to what's it called, eye casualty, which is like we basically had to go into A&E, get signed in A&E, and then they sent me through to eye casualty. We got seen pretty quickly. He got seen by 5 people, I think. Yeah, 5 people. So we had like a nurse initially, a doctor, an optician, and then 2 consultants. So yeah, it was pretty full on for him because they didn't all prod and poke him, but the majority of them kind of had a good look and prod and poke of him. The first nurse that I spoke to asked about his eyesight, and I said, because he failed his eye test at school like a few weeks before, and I said I think maybe he failed it more down to not understanding what they were expecting, or like worrying about getting answers wrong and that kind of thing. Because when I'd asked at school, they said no, he didn't have a teaching assistant with him when he did it, and they hadn't. What's the word I'm looking for? When I explained at the hospital, the optician at the hospital said, well, what age would you say that he's working at? And I said he's more of a level of a 3-year-old than a 5-year-old. So we started out with letters, but they did it. He was given like a card with letters on, so that whatever she pointed to, she would say, have you got one the same as this? And he'd have to point at. And he did that a couple of times, and then he just kind of refused. It wasn't really obvious that he didn't. You wouldn't necessarily say that he didn't know or he couldn't see, but he just refused to do it. So then she changed onto pictures, and when she changed onto pictures, then he would do it, and then he passed the whole way through to even when they were like tiny, tiny little images on this thing on the board. He passed it, so I think it was more down, hopefully, more down to lack of understanding, and that the school one just didn't adjust it to his age, well, his working age. Whereas Ella just says she can't see out of her left eye, so God help her. But yeah, I think Jaden's sight's probably fine. They didn't want to make a decision there and then onto whether he needed the operation or not, which is to have it kind of like cut out. So they gave him antibiotics for a week, which, yeah, sensory children, this is the first time he's had, I think he's had tonsillitis 3 times. It always comes this time of year when it's turning his birthday. He always gets ill every single year, and normally it's been tonsillitis. And one year he had tonsillitis and conjunctivitis. He's always ended up having antibiotics, but they tend to say it's not the end of the world with tonsillitis. They've always said it's not the end of the world if you don't get it into him, because it'll kind of go on its own anyway. And scarily, like, he can't always express. Well, he can more so now, but when he was younger, he couldn't always express when he was in pain and that kind of thing, which is quite scary. But yeah, so he's had antibiotics for a full week and eye drops and a hot compress 4 times a day. And I've literally been, it's like like force, like it looks horrific. It is quite horrific, but I tried all the kind of like, let's count down 3, 2, 1. Tried putting it in. Well, when he was younger, I used to put his milk and stuff. I didn't want to do that now, so it's been the threat of, if you don't have, it's a perfectly serious threat. It's not a not me being dramatic. If you don't do this, then you'll have your eye cut open in the hospital, which literally, it might still happen anyway. But yeah, I've been forcing it into him, just literally like having to hold his mouth and like forcing his mouth open and like forcing the spoon into his face, which isn't nice, but had to get it into it somehow. And then obviously eye drops. He's not been quite so bad with the eye drops, but yeah, it's definitely not been fun. And then obviously this week being half term, he's been incredibly unsettled anyway. We've had lots of the hate you, all those kind of lovely things. Yesterday's latest one was that he's going to tell his teachers that I don't look after him properly. That's his new, yeah, he's going to tell people that I'm not a good mum and I don't look after him properly because I wouldn't buy him a toy in Asda, which, like, he's so dramatic, bless him. But to him, like, everything is the end of the world. And if you say to him, like, when you're not kind of half thinking, he just goes, oh, it's not the end of the world. He goes, yes, it is. Like, okay, calm down. And he's still doing the whole, like, telling Ella, just ignore mummy, we don't talk to her, we don't like her, and all those kind of things, which is just, yeah, become an everyday thing now. We go on holiday tomorrow, which I'm half looking forward to, half petrified about. Last time we went on holiday, we did really well, but yeah, because he's so unsettled as it is this week, I don't know how it's gonna go. Hopefully good. And then obviously it's their birthday Monday, so we're in Devon from tomorrow evening. We travel back on their birthday on Monday, so yeah, I can't remember what else I was gonna say. I'm sure there was a lot, but yeah, they're turning 5, which is, it feels like a huge milestone. Which I think I say that every year. I was like, 3's huge, 4's huge, but 5, like, they're not babies anymore. Well, they haven't been babies for a long time, but one huge thing this week, which, like, to most people they're probably like, oh my god, what? Like, he's never ever out of the same room as me. And you can imagine, like, if he's here, he's with me like every single second. If I go to the toilet, he comes to the toilet with me. If he needs the toilet, I go to the toilet. You know, like, he's literally never ever away from me. And a couple of times this week I've just like sat upstairs on my bed for 20 minutes or something like that, and he's just stayed downstairs, and it's like, oh my god, a break. Or like I could just do my makeup without him like attached to me, like hanging off me, which is just, yeah, even if he'd have wanted to stay, I've always been quite wary of, not, you know, safety wise and all those kind of things. Like, he's always just been there, like here, like literally like in my face. So yeah, to even just have like half an hour, because it has been a long week, because I've not really been at work that much. I've been at home with them the majority of the time, which we're not obviously used to. They're not used to being together every second of the day, so they're bickering, winding the dog up, winding me up. And I do get that mum guilt of the fact that I'm normally like so patient with him, and I'll always stop and think. I never really just like snap at him or like bite his head off, and there's been a couple of times this week where he's done something that's just caught me off guard or shocked me, and I'm like, ah! And then I have to like step back because he doesn't react well to that at all. He'll get really distressed. You know, gets very dramatic with the whole like, I shouldn't live here anymore. I don't deserve to be here. I don't want to be alive, and all those, because you have to be so careful of like how you address things to him. But yeah, hopefully we have a good breakaway. It's going to be obviously not the best weather in the world. It's going to be hopefully quite quiet, because we're going to like, it's a fairly big caravan site, so there's like some entertainment and stuff, but it's also obviously very off peak. So hopefully it's good. And then their birthday as well, which again, like I'm sure I've said this at Christmas if you've watched my previous videos, the concept of presents. To be honest, I don't really get the whole like surprise thing. I hate surprises. I hate wrapping presents. He hates opening presents. He just wants to know exactly. At Christmas I kind of told him, this time around I haven't so much, but exactly that he wants to know, not like a normal like kid like knows around the house. It's like an anxiety to him of not knowing what he's gonna get. Does that make sense? It probably doesn't make sense to many, but to me it does. To most people it probably really doesn't. But to Jaden, he needs to know what colour's the car going to be that I'm going to get. What am I going to get? What am I going to have? Like, it makes him anxious. It's not even just that he's being naughty with it or like the normal like kid thing of like I'm gonna look through the cupboards. He'd like, yeah, he needs to know, but he's still convinced that Santa's bringing all his birthday presents, which like don't really know why. So yeah, I think that's everything. I'm sure there's more, but I could make another video. But yeah, speak to you all soon. Bye.